Income myself.
Is this kind of starting to the Star Trek episodes where you think about the third engineer in the fifth episode?
Kinda, yeah. I guess to that point. In a way I never expected. For those of you who are on this panel and have not heard of Critical Role, I apologize. You're going to be very confused. But if you don't know what it is, it's a show where me and a bunch of other voice actors, nerdy-ass voice actors, we play Dungeons and Dragons on Twitch. So it's us in a room being a bunch of doofuses, and you get to watch. And apparently you come into a panel and get confused. So the breadth of NPCs gets unwieldy. And the people that are so concerned about someone whose name I made up on the spot and forgot about it, so later like, what happened to him? I'm like, he's fun. But there's like NPCs I have too much energy into and nobody cares. I'm like, okay.
Order to market on bat guano.
Yes. I have a whole campaign study coming out based around the bat guano economy.
So you pick next.
All right. Let's go for some. Let's go for some back love, and that's what we're and the back of the platinum glasses.
Awesome. Is there a moment from the first campaign that like really resonated with you, or like maybe didn't go exactly like you thought it would, like maybe like 180-degree turn from it, or like just a really special moment in the campaign that really stuck with you?
Oh, there's plenty. There's plenty. Every character death is unexpected, and when those do happen, and many of you other run games may know, there is nothing like the pressure of a GM who has to deal with a character death, or in our case, having the ritual that we implemented to make it more difficult than the standard 5th edition resurrection rules, to have a character may or may not come back, and to have a setting where the players have to implore their return and still have the possibility of failure is nerve-wracking. But also incredible, like in the same way that good storytelling is, and being a part of that for me, it's an emotional roller coaster, and though I still have to try and be as emotionally neutral as possible, because I am that neutral entity, I'm still like, holding back the tears now. So those are always very impactful. I mean, the whole Vax arc, the whole shift. Ever since the Tomb of the Raven Queen, outside of Vasselheim, and the very different direction the story took from that point, none of us had planned that. And seeing where it went just was where the natural story goes. And yeah, like there could have been a lot of different ways I could have decided as a storyteller to make it happier or to make it work out okay in some cases. In the long run, no, the story didn't allow it. There were opportunities and they didn't work out. So that's how it works. And then in hindsight, I'm very happy with that way because it made for a very impactful story of loss and coming to terms with that and destiny. And yeah, I once again, Dungeons and Dragons. Who would have thought, right? The weirdest, most wonderful things come out of dice and numbers and sheets filled with ideas.
So what's your favorite part of the game? Is it developing these characters and fleshing out and see where they go? You like a good TPK?
It depends on the type of group. Because I have groups, an old gaming group friends of mine that I played with back in all through the 2000s. Some of them really liked playing a hard mode, rogue like you're all gonna die type experience. But you have to have a group that wants to buy. If a GM is very stringent and wants to play a certain game and they haven't agreed with the players the kind of game he's going to play, a lot of people are going to be disappointed, or the GM will. So for me in this group in particular, our focus seems to be a little more on character interaction and character development, and for some it's the hero's journey, for some it's dealing with the harshness of reality, for some it's family, it's finding a community within this party of adventurers they forged, and to do a greater good in the world. And in all those ways, it's therapy. It's a very therapeutic experience at the table. So I love all those facets with different groups that look for those. But for me personally, as a storyteller, I really enjoy playing a game that is focused in the development of a character's story, and then coming into realizing what they want to do and how they want to change the world for the better or the worse of the world around them, and help kind of craft that story for them. So I love that aspect.
Excellent. So next question, right there with the arm. Thank you.
You would know. favorite part of preparation each week to week? Oh man.
You make some really awesome nights.
Thank you. For me right now, I'm playing with kid Legos. Because growing up, never being able to afford Dwarven Forge, that I have the opportunity to, I'm like, I'm just going to use it all the time. And they become more affordable since they started the Kickstarter stuff, which is good. So that I have the opportunity to do that, I like playing with them, so those are definitely fun. For me, I really enjoy creating floating narratives, if that makes sense, where I'll create a bunch of sub-stories that exist out there simultaneously with what the party's doing, in case they find a path that leads in that direction and I connect what they're doing with this story. You saw a couple of facets of it in the last episode, if you saw it, where they just encountered a couple of characters and you only got to see a little bit of it. There's a lot of things going on out there that they might run into. And so for me, a lot of the fun is creating these little pockets and NPCs and little story threads that they may or may not pursue or run into again that'll, either will happen without them and it'll blow up in someone's face down the road, probably, or not. And so for me, it's coming up with those and imagining how different characters will interact. Where I'm like, if this character is the one that encounters this narrative of a bunch of people meeting in a basement because they're unhappy with the political structure, they'll be intrigued. If this person is the one that meets it, they're going to burn it from the inside out. If this person runs into it, they're going to turn them in and make a lot of money. It's really fascinating to me to consider these story threads and then think of all the different ways they can be treated based on who's the first person to really get that point of the story. So to me, that's the most fascinating and fun aspect. I sit there kind of cackling like a video on me. All right, next one. Let's see. Let's go over. You, sir, with the gray shirt. Yes.
We all know about the Will Wheaton curse.
It's real.
I was watching a few episodes back of Percy dying.
Yes.
And what was your reaction to Taliesin rolling that natural 20 to keep his hex up?
That's par for the course for Taliesin. He is the anti-Wheaton, or was, until he bequeathed unto me the golden snitch dice. What's great is there are so many moments in D&D where you fail or you succeed, or you roll 20s and brief moments that aren't that impactful. And then every now and then you get those natural 1s or natural 20s when it is the perfect time for the narrative for it to work. And I love when the dice work for the narrative. I think I said that before in the show. And those are examples where like for when the Briarwoods first came, and Percival first came around the corner, or when Vax were down and then Vax rolled that natural 20 on her first hit. Those are moments that narratively you would say, man, wouldn't it be perfect if, and then it happens and you're like, this feels scripted and I'm the DM. So yeah, I love those moments. That's a perfect example, I think, of those wonderful little magical beats of the story where the dice let those narrative moments really shine. And Taliesin is 300 years old and has spoken with many occult demonic entities for that time period to get the luck he has today. But you already know.
Do you have lucky dice?
I do now. Taliesin was gifted a Shapeways clockwork dice, like a golden dice that he used last campaign. We called the Golden Snitch because it looked like one.
Yeah.
And that was the dice that he just kept rolling 20s all the time. And many people here watched and it was ridiculous. And he'd be like, no! He'd go over and check, devil! And when the first campaign was over, he gave it to me on camera. And I've used it for pretty much every D20 roll in the new campaign. So
I've got one little D20, I call it Crystal Blue Persuasion. and probably 8 times out of 10, if I need a 20, it's the one to go to.
I love it. You start finding those and kind of keep it on the side.
Yep.
Then you have Laura Bailey, who just a dice hoarder. I've never met any. I think there was a critter that created and made for her dice stocks. Where she can shame her dice. Actually put them in like a small stock. Yeah, it's great. There's dice prison and then there's dice stocks, which is just like the shame.
My brother gave me a metal dice set for Christmas, and they're heavy, and I could hurt somebody with them, I think.
Good for gaming, good for self-defense.
Yes. Next question. Let's go.